We don't often think of earthquakes in Singapore because they are incredibly rare. But they have happened close to us. In 1948, a tremor was felt in parts of the country, including Bukit Timah. Could another earthquake happen in Singapore? And should we be worried? Let's get to the bottom of it with Assistant Professor Aron Meltzner.
An earthquake is the shaking that results when two sides of a fault move relative to one another. So stress and strain will build up, and that can happen on any fault. And when it happens at a plate boundary, we call it a plate boundary earthquake or an interplate earthquake because it happens between two tectonic plates. When it happens within a plate, we call it an intraplate. There's no fundamental difference between earthquakes that are within a plate and at the boundary between two plates.
Singapore is geologically stable, sitting on the Sunda Plate along with peninsular Malaysia. The nearest plate boundary to us is the Sumatran Fault that is 400 kilometers away. On August 24, 2025, just 180 kilometers from Singapore, an intraplate earthquake struck Sengamat in Johor. Tremors were also felt in Negeri Sembilan and Malacca.
Well, there are faults in Johor. There are faults up and down the Malay Peninsula that extend into Singapore. In August 2025, there was a sequence of earthquakes. It started with a magnitude 4.1, and it was followed by a very typical aftershock sequence. It caused shaking in northern Johor. It was felt in northern Johor. This whole sequence is releasing stress that accumulated very gradually in the decades to centuries to millennia preceding the earthquake, and it's just part of the normal process of strain accumulation and then sudden release.
And can something like that happen in Singapore unexpectedly?
We're looking to try to understand what the potential is of any faults in Singapore and nearby to see if the faults are big enough to produce larger earthquakes. In 1948, there was an earthquake somewhere near southern central Singapore. It was felt from Bukit Timah to Geylang to what's now Sentosa. It damaged a house in Chinatown. And anyone can go online to the Straits Times archive, actually, and read the descriptions of the shaking in that earthquake. And they're actually remarkably similar to the earthquake that happened in Johor. So it's reasonable that to estimate that the earthquake in 1948 in Singapore was also about a magnitude 4.1. So we know they can happen here, they have happened here, and they will happen in the future.
Is there anything that we can learn from that earthquake and for a future?
I think from that, and there's another pair of earthquakes that happened in 1922 in Johor, magnitude 5.4 on the 31st of January 1922, and then a week later, 5.0 aftershock in about the same area as the earthquakes in August 2025. And so we know that these faults are capable of producing a magnitude 5.4 earthquake. Because these faults extend up and down the Malay Peninsula and into Singapore, it would be reasonable to infer that a magnitude 5.5 earthquake could happen anywhere in the Malay Peninsula, including in Singapore.
And are there any warning signs that we can kind of tell when an earthquake might happen or a tremor?
This has been the subject of scientific research for more than half a century now. The more we look, the more we realize that there's no consistent pattern before earthquakes. So anticipating earthquakes before they happen has been very elusive.
So while we could experience shaking as a result of earthquakes around us, there's really no need to lose sleep over it.